An old bachelor, near a garbage dump, saw a seemingly mentally unstable woman. He immediately approached her and coaxed her into coming home. He promised her an abundance of delicious food, and the woman, seemingly oblivious, followed him. The man, nearing 40 and still unmarried, was dirt poor and had a terrible temper. His only wish was to have a son to carry on the family line. He stared at the woman, his mind racing. He could get a wife and a child for free without spending a penny. This was a surefire deal. He dragged the woman into the dilapidated house, while neighbors gathered at the door, pointing and whispering that he'd picked up a fool. They said she was useless except for wasting food, but the man ignored them, focusing only on locking her inside, afraid she'd run away. The neighbor, a local deity, couldn't bear to watch any longer. He grabbed the man, his face stern. "You've taken her in," he said. "You must treat her well. No hitting or scolding. You'll have to take responsibility for her for the rest of your life." The man readily agreed verbally, but his attitude changed drastically the moment he turned on her. At night, he could feign gentleness, but during the day, he would beat and kick the mentally challenged woman at the slightest provocation. The woman was clumsy. She would burn the pot while cooking or fail to sweep properly, and the man would call her useless and strike her. The woman could only sit on the ground and cry, not even knowing how to dodge. Not long after, the woman became pregnant, and the man became even more smug, hoping every day for a son. But he himself was struggling to find enough to eat, so he didn't care about the pregnant woman's well-being. The woman, pregnant, grew thinner and thinner, becoming skin and bones. Her father, feeling sorry for her, would secretly bring her cornbread and eggs every day, hiding from the man, and would even do her laundry and cook for her, afraid she wouldn't make it through. One day, the man returned home drunk and saw the woman sitting blankly at the door. He hadn't cooked for her, and he immediately flew into a rage, grabbing a wooden stick to beat her. Just then, the shaman arrived, snatched the wooden stick, and started arguing with the man. Enraged, the man shoved the shaman, who fell to the ground, scraping his arm. Seeing this, the simple-minded woman suddenly rushed to protect the shaman, whimpering as if protecting her benefactor. The man became even angrier and started hitting her as well. The shaman scrambled to his feet and desperately tried to stop him, crying, "If you continue like this, you'll get your comeuppance sooner or later." After 10 months of pregnancy, the simple-minded woman gave birth to a boy. The man jumped for joy, kowtowing to the ancestral tablets, feeling he finally had an heir. However, his violent temper remained unchanged. When the child was just learning to walk, he would take his anger out on the child, slapping him repeatedly. Every time his son was hit, the simple-minded woman would rush forward like a mad woman, shielding him in her arms, enduring the beatings herself without letting go. When the child turned 5, a famine struck the village, leaving every household without food. The man, his eyes gleaming with hunger, began to contemplate evil. He secretly contacted people in a neighboring village, intending to sell the mentally challenged woman for food. Since his son was already born, keeping him around was a waste of rations. That night, he secretly tied up the woman and was about to drag her away when his son woke up, clinging tightly to his leg, crying and begging him not to sell his mother. The man kicked his son away and insisted on leaving. At this moment, Tang Shun arrived with several villagers. It turned out that Tang Shun had already sensed something was wrong with the man and had been secretly watching him, exposing his plot on the spot. The villagers all cursed the man for being heartless and forced him to release the woman. The man failed to sell her and was scorned by the crowd, harboring resentment towards Tang Shun and the mother and son. As the child grew older, he understood that his mother was mentally challenged, his father was cruel, and only his grandmother, Tang Shun, cared for him. When he reached school age, he refused to leave his mother alone at home, fearing his father would beat her again. Every day, he took his mother with him to school. He repeatedly told her to sit next to him and not move or speak, and surprisingly, the woman actually understood. Sitting quietly in the corner of the classroom, she didn't make a sound during the entire class, just watching her son. When the principal learned of the mother and son's plight, his eyes welled up with tears. He immediately allowed them to live at the school, providing free food and lodging, and vowed never to let them return to that den of wolves. The child studied diligently at school, determined to make something of himself and give his mother and Tang Shun a better life. Tang Shun continued to visit the school often, bringing them food, sewing clothes, and treating them like family. 16 years passed in a flash. The child went to university, made a name for himself, and became a renowned businessman. His first act was to return to the school and donate 1 million yuan to a fund to help impoverished students like himself. The principal held his hand and praised him for not forgetting his roots. When the news reached the village, the man, knowing his son was now wealthy, immediately hatched a wicked plan. He secretly went to the school, lured the mentally challenged woman back to the village, and locked her up. Waiting for his son to come and demand the money, the son rushed to the village, saw his mother locked up, and wept bitterly. The man blocked the doorway, throwing a tantrum, yelling, "Don't even think about taking your mother away without giving me money. I'm your father. You have to support me." The son, seeing this heartless man, showed no mercy. He directly called the village officials, forcibly taking his mother away without giving her a single penny. Seeing he couldn't get anything, the man sat at the village entrance, crying and shouting, cursing his son for being unfilial. But the villagers watched coldly, no one sympathizing with him, all saying he had only himself to blame. The son brought his mother to Tang Shin's house. Upon entering, he knelt, tears streaming down his face. "Grandma, if it weren't for you, my mother and I would have died long ago. I can never repay your kindness in this lifetime." Tang Shun helped him up, looking at the sensible child, crying, "Good boy, you've finally made it through." The son immediately said he would take Tang Shun to the city, care for him in his old age, and be filial to him for the rest of his life. In the end, The son took his mentally challenged mother and Tang Shen away from the countryside, living a peaceful and happy life in the city. Under the care of her son and Tang Shen, the mentally challenged mother gradually became more docile and occasionally even smiled. Meanwhile, the heartless man was left alone in the village, his house empty and neglected. He lived a miserable life with no one to care for him in his old age. One should be kind-hearted. Mistreating family will ultimately lead to alienation and isolation. Gratitude and remembering kindness will bring rewards. Only by upholding one's conscience and treating others with kindness can one attain true happiness.